Hello, and welcome to the Health Matters Podcast. What is the Health Matters Podcast, you may ask? The Health Matters Podcast is the podcast where we talk about why mental health matters, but we just call it Health Matters because mental health is just health. I am your host, Erin Mullins, and in this episode, I interview Emily Venters, a successful long distance runner currently competing at the University of Colorado. Emily previously attended Boise State University during her first 2 years of college and transferred to the University of Colorado in fall of 2019. In the beginning of her collegiate career, Emily found massive success in running, achieving All-American honors in cross country and running a 15:45 5K. Since then, Emily has struggled with stress reactions and a sacral stress fracture. She's now on her way to a comeback. And now, time for the interview. Okay, so Emily, you faced a lot of injuries during your time as a collegiate athlete. How devastating mentally was it to deal with so many physical injuries in short succession?
It's been extremely difficult. And I guess it's only happened since I transferred and I've been here for like the past year and a half. Because at Boise State and in high school, I never really had any injuries or anything. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, like I took it for granted that I could run for 6+ years without any problems. And now in the last year and a half, I seem to have had so many injuries, and like you said, in such a short period of time. And it's been really, really, I'd say more mentally challenging for me than obviously physically challenging. I seem to recover pretty quickly from the injuries, but then mentally it drains me a lot and it's been super hard. There've been times like every injury I'm like, I should just stop because I don't want this to keep happening. But then there's always something within me that's doesn't want to give up on myself. And I'm super determined to get back to where I was and prove to myself that I can get through this. And the challenges that have been thrown at me aren't going to stop me from doing what I love to do. But I will say too that after every injury that I've had, it seems like I learned something new and I'm able to take something new away from, I don't know, running and just life in general. And yeah, I don't know, I've grown a lot through them all. And I think that it's made me a better person, even though it's been really difficult and taken away running from me.
Yeah, it's good that you have a determined attitude. So speaking of having to be determined, how did you feel getting a third injury when you thought you were on the mend? How did you cope following your sacral stress fracture?
Yeah, that one was the most difficult one for me for sure because it literally just came out of nowhere. I was on a 8-mile easy run and I think around mile 5, I stopped at a stoplight and then I started running again and something just didn't feel right. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just a muscle strain or something. And then I ran on it again for a long run. And that's when I knew something serious was wrong because it hurt really, really bad. And even sitting down or going to sleep, it hurt and it was throbbing. And then I found out it was a sacral stress fracture. And I kind of called my coach and I was just like, I think I should just stop. I don't know what to do. I'm just really upset and in shock. And he was like, okay, just let's heal right now. And then you can make your decision later. And so I kind of thought that okay, they're still believing in me. So I should still be believing in myself. And with less than a week of healing, I was just so determined again to get back into it. And so I was on the bike a couple of days after I found out I had a stress fracture. And normally you can't even bike with a sacral stress fracture, but I don't know how I was able to, but I did, and it didn't hurt me at all. So yeah. But it was really difficult because that's a big injury. And I was out for 3 months, which was a long time. But during that 3 months was also quarantine. And we all know that that was such a great time during the spring when everything was shut down for the first time. But I kind of just found almost, I guess, comfort kind of in the fact that like everyone at that time was dealing with something, because we were all in lockdown and we were all kind of sad and depressed. And so I guess in a way it helped me that other people around me in the world around me was kind of shut down as well, so that I wasn't really missing out on anything. And I was just able to be with my close friends and find other things to make me happy.
Yeah, I'm glad that you found ways to cope. So, in your article with the Stride Report, you mentioned that you struggled a lot with body image since you entered college. Can you describe to me how that happened and what it's like?
Yeah, I think that it started almost maybe at the end of my high school career, sort of like as I was getting ready to go into college, because I started like following college runners on Instagram and you know, like getting excited to go. But then you start seeing what they look like and you're like, oh, they're running really fast. I need to look like that, or I need to change what I'm doing so that I can get that fast. And I think that that's something that is getting worse for the running community while it's getting better. I don't know, because social media, I think, plays a huge role in that. You know, young girls in high school are looking up to the professional runners and the top collegiates, and they're hurting themselves by underfueling at such a young age because they want to get that perfect runner's body. And yeah, I think that it's harmful, and it definitely harmed me. And then when I entered college, I started running like for the team immediately. And at races, you just notice everyone around you so small. And you know, I was already pretty small, but it's just like you just start thinking and getting in your head, and it's kind of it. I mean, not kind of. It was very unhealthy, and but it's also like a mental illness. And it's like I knew what I was doing, but at the same time it's really hard to like break away from like those negative thoughts about yourself.
Yeah,
And I think that it's something probably like 80 to 90% of female runners can relate with. And it's sad that it's such a big issue, but it is. And I think that though that the more we're able to talk about it, the better it is.
yeah, I mean, I can definitely like relate to what you're saying. And like you said, I think it's like a very high percentage of like female collegiate athletes who feel this body image pressure because it's just, with social media, with the pressure for women to be thin in general in the media, with everything, it's like
Right.
there's such a pressure to meet some sort of ideal that we think this looks fast, but like the truth is if you look at all the runners lining up at a major race, there is no look to fast. There's a bunch of different looks to fast.
Exactly. Yeah. And that kind of was like I shifted my mentality a little bit after like getting that third injury of kind of like, okay, Emily, it doesn't matter like what you look like. Like you just want to be running. So like it's better to be running than to be like on the sidelines.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it was very difficult being on the sidelines so long.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing too about this is that
Mm-hmm.
even it's it's still challenging at times, because I think that like my body changed quite a lot in like a short period of time. And then I started, you know, feeling myself correctly, but I got another injury. And so that was just really, really hard, you know, for me to think like, well, why am I doing everything, you know, right now and it's not working? And it's just, it kind of plays mind games with you, like, so I should do things wrong again, you know? But no, it's not the healthy lifestyle. And I know that now.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you face things like that, it's definitely going to put a lot of negative self-talk in your head. And it's super easy to go back to old ways with like mental health because that's what you're used to. So it definitely took a lot of strength to try and be healthier. So you mentioned in also mentioned in the Stride report that you struggled with chronic underfueling. How did these fueling issues start for you, and like what did it feel like?
It was like the same thing. It started the same way that I said, like kind of just like this with the body image, like it went hand in hand with that. So then I just started eating healthier. I got to college and I was able to choose what I ate or what I didn't eat. And, no one was watching me, or like I could choose for myself. So I think that that's something that I felt like I had control of for the first time in my life. Whereas I wasn't at home and having my parents watch me eat and like make me healthy foods and everything. I was like, okay, well, I have freedom, and like I guess I need to like be thinner to be faster, and so I'm just going to limit the amount of food that I eat. And it was a lot easier in college for me to do that, or I still am in college, but a lot easier when I left home for me to like have that control.
Yeah, that
But
definitely.
I mean, I never felt like I was like starving myself, which was good, but it was just definitely like I was very conscious of everything that I ate. And I knew how much like calories and fat and whatever I was putting into my body, like everything that I ate, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's certainly a lot to keep track of. Like, and I think every runner can relate to at some point like worrying about how many calories are like are in what I'm eating, because I think even within like the running media, to a degree, like eating healthy to the point that it's unhealthy can almost be like encouraged. So I think we need to try and like change the narratives, and so people can have healthier relationships with like food and their body image.
Exactly. And it's still like such a tricky thing, I think, for so many people, because no one can ever like tell you how much you're supposed to eat. Even nutritionists, they don't really know like what's best for everyone necessarily. They just they can guess. But that's the thing. It's just like, well, like, should you just eat until you're full, or like should you intuitively eat, or like should you force yourself to eat when you're not hungry? Like, people just don't know. And so I think it's just hard for everyone to know like if they're fueling enough or if they're not fueling, or if they're over fueling. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. It can be tricky to find a balance. So, do you think that your struggle with food and body image have mirrored a larger struggle with mental health issues like anxiety, depression, or something else?
Yes, definitely. I guess, I mean, like a disordered eating in itself is a mental illness. And so I don't know that that necessarily caused like depression or anxiety for me, but I think that it probably had something to do with like, I mean, my freshman year of college, I felt like I was sort of depressed, but I didn't really know it. And because I would like shelter myself away from peers, and I felt like I didn't hang out with you guys as much, or, interact with as many people because of the disordered eating.
Hmm.
And so I think that that did definitely cause me to like shelter myself away from everyone and social life. And yeah, it made me depressed. And so really the only thing that like I felt like made me happy was the running. And yeah, I don't know. I think it just all led to one another. And it was just, when I look back, you know, I think I was happy, but I don't know that I actually was during that freshman year. And I think it wasn't until like sophomore, like second half of sophomore year, I realized like, okay, like this is a problem and I want to have more of a social life. And, I don't want to be this way for all of college. And so I just started hanging out with more people, and I felt like my social life changed a lot then. And now it's like, I don't have a problem hanging out with people. I love hanging out with people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm glad you've opened up more with like hanging out with people. Like, I mean, I was teammates with you our freshman year, and I wouldn't say like I knew at all that like you were trying to like isolate yourself from us. Like, because I guess I didn't know you. I thought maybe like she's hanging out with other people, or like it's her personality. And like I still felt like a lot of times you were at like the baby Bronco like dinners and stuff. So
Yeah.
like I think mental health can be like really hard to notice. And it was like, or like with what you ate, it was like, well, if I had been paying attention every day to like what you ate, that would have been unhealthy on like my end. Like I could
Exactly.
have what any teammate ate on a given day and been like, they must have disordered eating. So I think like focusing on too much could be like a comparison trap. So I would say like maybe there were times I was like worried about you, but I would say like I never really like knew at all until you came out with your article and with the stride report.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I would say I'm not necessarily a shy person, but I think that I came off that way at the beginning when I came to Boise State. Like people just thought I was shy and like, introverted, but I do not really think that I am that way truly. And so it's like,
Yeah.
it's been really nice now. Like, I don't know, since I feel like I've overcome so many barriers that I'm like finally feeling like I am my true self now. And like, I am a lot more social than people thought I was.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you're coming trying finding who your true self is. Just wondering, how did I come off like freshman year, like when you and stuff?
Um, you were literally just all over the place. You would just pop up at random spots and be like, "Oh, hi, Erin," and you would show up to. I just remember you showing up to practice like wearing like one long sock and one short sock and like a skirt, and it would be like snowing, and you would be wearing a skirt and sock and like high socks, and you're like, "Erin, what are you doing?" Uh, it was fun though. I miss everyone from Baby Broncos.
Yeah, yeah. We're both at different colleges, so I definitely miss everyone from Baby Broncos as well. But at least, we're at new schools and we have our memories and we have new people to meet.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I still look back on like all my times at Boise State, and now I'm like able to like appreciate all of them, whereas like during the transfer process I was like, no, I'm no more Boise State, like I hate that place. But now I look back and I'm like, okay, I have some really good memories from there, and they'll always stay with me.
Yeah, for sure. Even when times are tougher, like you do have like good memories with your friends and stuff. And I definitely would say like I don't think like I got necessarily like a negative impression of you like my freshman year, even though you said you felt like you didn't hang out with us as much and stuff. Like I definitely have memories like hanging out with you and stuff. So, anyways, so like you've mentioned some of your coping mechanisms, but like, do you have any other ways you found to cope with your various mental health issues?
um I would say the biggest thing for me, I've learned that whenever I'm struggling, like to not isolate myself, like to reach out to people and do things like, even if I don't have running, like go on a hike. And I'm lucky that I live in the mountains because I can just go hike, or like go sit by the river, or go hammocking or something, or go over to a friend's house, a teammate's house, like to not be alone, because that's when I feel really sad, and I just sink into a deeper hole whenever I isolate myself. And then additionally, like having a psychologist who I meet with like once a week, and that's just been really, really helpful for me. And I think for a while, like I was always like, oh, psychologists don't help. But if you find the right one, they're really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think psychologists and other mental health professionals can be really helpful. Like it sounds like you found some good coping mechanisms. So,
Mhm.
why do you think that like mental health and talking about mental health is important?
Um, I guess for me, like being able to be open about everything just makes me feel better, and like I'm not hiding anything from other people. So I like when people can just be open and honest about it, because like you've said, mental health is just another health issue. It's not like some like separate thing really. It's like it should be talked about just like an injury is talked about, because it is an injury to your brain. And um yeah, I don't know, I just think that, yeah, being open with people helps other people be open back. And so, I feel like whenever I'm able to help someone else, like it helps me. And I hope that like the reason I like wrote that article was so that, you know, I could help other people realize that like it's really common to have a mental health problem and it's okay to talk about it because it doesn't make you weak or like any lesser than anyone else. Like everyone is struggling with something, always, and something that you should be embarrassed about or hiding because it's just life and everyone deals with things.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really good that like you came out with your message like with the Stride report. I would say like it helped me because I think freshman and sophomore year, I just sort of saw you as like invincible and like I didn't really realize that you were like struggling with these things. So, I think it's like good that you're open and that you came out with your article because a lot of people don't. And so I'm like, it took a lot of like honesty and openness and like strength in order to do so. So is
Yeah.
there,
And I think that that was like hard for me to do kind of too
yeah.
because I am a pretty or I mean for a long time I've been very closed off and like don't really share much with other people,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to come across as like, like pretty tough and like nothing will stop me, but I think it was just like I realized I needed to do that for myself to help myself and other people.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure you've helped a lot of people by sharing your story. So is there a message you'd like to tell the audience or anything else you would like to add?
Okay, I'll say something cheesy, but just don't give up on like your dreams. Like if you wanna, for me, like I love running, and just because I've had injuries doesn't mean that like I have to stop running. Like I think sometimes people who haven't experienced injuries think that like, oh, why would she keep running if she keeps getting hurt? But it's like they don't really, or I didn't realize until I got hurt what it was like to be injured. And it's not really, I didn't choose to be injured, nor did I want to be injured. And so I think that's what people don't realize. It's like, I didn't choose this. Like it just
Yeah.
happened to me. And like, I would have never wanted this to happen. I love running and it's so hard when I can't run. And so I guess just telling yourself that like, don't, or not listening to other people's opinions and just going with what you believe. Cause I mean, lots of people probably thought I should stop running, but I said no because I'm determined and like I'm competitive and I am tough and I'm a badass. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
And I'm going to conquer anything that comes my way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely like glad you have that positive attitude. And like I agree with you if like people don't really want to choose mental or physical injuries. Like that's not something you'd want to do to yourself. But at the same time, there's no like mental and physical injury. Like it's just an injury. Like we have this like separation of mental, but it's like it's in our brain. Like it's not really totally disconnected from physical in the way we try and just dismiss it as like, oh, it's just mental health. It's like that. I don't really think that's accurate.
Right. And I think people just get scared to talk about it because it is more complicated, like you can't get really concrete answers always for like what's going on in your brain, or it's hard for people to understand unless they've actually been through it. So
Yeah, for sure. And it's harder to measure a sprained brain than it is to measure a sprained ankle.
that's it. Yeah, exactly.
That's a wrap for my interview with Emily Venters. Health matters, and that is why we all need to have more discussions about mental health. Check in with your friends. Check in with your happy friends, sad friends, shy friends, and outgoing friends. Ask your friends, how are you? And truly mean it. If you are a parent, check in with your kids. Today, an immense amount of pressure is put on adolescents and young adults to be special and be better than everyone else, leading to a bunch of stressed out kids. We need to learn to be vulnerable and trust one another, working together to create a better future. There is nothing wrong with competition and individual achievement, but teamwork and collaboration should be taught to help young adults as well. Finally, if you are struggling, please reach out to others for professional help. There is nothing wrong with getting help. If you are struggling, I can't promise that everything will get better, but don't lose hope. Seek professional help, and things will eventually get better. I will leave you with the words of inaugural poet Amanda Gorman. There is always light, if only you are brave enough to see it. If only we are brave enough to be it.